Welcome to Arizona Bill Watch, the show where you get satisfaction if you're not getting it from your state legislators. We report and comment on what happens at the state legislature and alert you on what is coming up next. And now, Arizona Bill Watch.
Hello everyone, welcome to Arizona Bill Watch for another lively discussion of important and controversial bills. I am your host, Jose Borrajero. Thank you for watching. There is a lot going on at the Capitol these days, so stay tuned because we have a fantastic show for you today. But before we do that, some housekeeping items. Number one, we would love for you to watch the whole show from beginning to end. However, you may also fast forward to the bills of your choice by using the handy chart that we have placed down below. Secondly, if you like what you see, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. It means a lot to us. Third, it costs money to do what we do. So if you like what you see, you may contribute by going to our website, azpeopleslobbyist.com. So with all that out of the way, let's look at the first bill. Welcome back, everyone. As you know, we specialize, or our emphasis is in the state legislature. But this time of year, of course, since so many bills have gone to the governor, we do talk a little bit about what the governor has been doing at the beginning of the show. But today we have one other thing that I would like to cover because there's news being made, and I think Gloria has a report on that.
Yeah, the whole Trump indictment.
Oh, the indictment thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this indictment is a attack on the Republican Party. They don't want Trump, obviously, to be the nominee. They don't want him in the presidency. He's the only person that knows what is going on. I think he learned a lot from his first term as president, and I think he's going to be doing things a lot different if he does get in again. The thing that everybody's been asking is, why all of a sudden did Bragg do this? Because they were talking about it being a month out before they made a decision, or they took another poll or vote or whatever. And one of the things that came out is that they think why Bragg did this was because back in August of 22, Alan Weiselberg, I believe is his name, he pled guilty to tax fraud because he had worked for Trump since 1973. He was the CFO. He pled guilty. I don't remember if he did jail time or what. He may have. But anyway, so that led to January of this year. And I did not hear this. I don't know if either of you did, is that the Trump organization was fined $1.6 million. There was, and this is what Bragg and that Letitia Brown or Jones, that they've been trying to get him on the tax fraud. And there was no implication of Trump himself being involved with Weiselberg. Weiselberg never came out, never threw them under the bus, him or the family. And it was easy for them because of the August 22 decision in January to get a conviction and to make the Trump organization liable for the taxes. And so, like I said, they were fined $1.6 million. And the one thing that Bragg said at that time was, it isn't sufficient, plain and simple. Saying the law should reflect what I think many of us see, particularly those who sat through the trial and saw the 13-year, pattern of deep greed and misconduct laid bare. We should have stiffer penalties for conduct like that. And that is what I do believe why they came up with this indictment. It's not right. Nobody wanted to prosecute this. And I just kind of wonder if he got the heads up from the White House that they need to do something. So anyway, what I'm also going to say is this kind of juxtaposes this with Arizona politics, because the way they're going after Carrie Lake and Justine Wastak because they don't like her bills, they're just anybody that the left disagrees with, they're going to go after. And it's just a shame that all of this has come down to this. And I just hope that the people stand up and start realizing what is happening to this country and how the Democrats want this to be a one-party system.
Not only that, they want it to be a banana republic.
That's what they want, yes.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a case of like when you have an addict, usually they don't wake up until they have, until they're really over the edge. Eventually, I think the people in Arizona and in the United States, for that matter, are going to wake up to the fact that this is not a good way to be. We got to reverse this. Would it be too late? I don't know. It may be. But you usually have to hit bottom before you start to wake up and say, "Hey, we need to address this."
Well,
So-
and the sad part about it is so many of our representatives, our senators, the House of Representatives, all of our representatives, so many of them are falling lock, stock, and barrel in with what the Democrats want to do. And they're not representing us. And that's why it is so important. It's always a 50-50 chance is what I always say, but it is so important to get the right people into Congress, in the state legislature and in our Congress, in our federal, the U.S.
And we try our best to wake up people to what's happening at the state legislature for that very same reason. And with that, let's look at a little bit about what.
May I say
oh,
one more thing to
Okay.
this? And this is the thing that people don't seem to realize is that it starts from the bottom. It doesn't start, it starts at your city and local elections. And once we start getting the right people in that go with the values of our country, then I think that that's when we'll see a shift. Anyway, I just had to say that.
Yes. The governor. Isn't she a darling?
Oh, yes. A real prize.
Okay. My information here is as of yesterday. I did not have a chance to update it. It appears that she did do some additional vetoing and an additional signing of bills since yesterday. But I believe that these are the ones that we're going to be talking about today are still viable. They're still sitting at their desk. However, in terms of what she vetoed so far, she has vetoed a whole bunch of them. But there's two that really got my attention, and I want to mention them here for you guys to comment on. One of them is what is referred to as the food tax, SB 1063. And she vetoed this. This is the bill that would prohibit cities from imposing a tax on food that is intended for home consumption. It doesn't affect what you buy at the restaurant, and takeout and all that. The whole idea behind this was that with inflation the way it is and the cost of food being the way it is, in many cases you're talking about 50% inflation, a tax break would be a bit of an assistance that they could use, or we could use. Well, she vetoed that bill. She's perfectly okay with having people being taxed on. As a matter of fact, she also vetoed the one that would have prohibited taxes on rental,
Right.
of your home rental, your residential rental. So those are the two items that the lower echelon of people, for them, that's the two most important parts of their expense. That's the biggest portion of their expense. Their income is used mostly for income and shelter. They don't have a whole lot for golf and vacations and that sort of thing. So they have nothing to cut. So she was against that. She vetoed the bill that would have given relief. And then this last week, a couple of days ago, she vetoed the one that would have provided relief on the food part of it. And her veto letter specified or mentioned that that this would provide cuts in service, including public safety. In other words, she said, okay, so if the municipalities are not allowed to tax food, then they're going to have to cut police and fire and first responders and all that. That is the standard answer. Anytime you say, we're going to cut taxes, say, well, okay, you're going to lose services. That's not the case, because with inflation and all that, we are having a tremendous influx of revenue sharing to the cities, because you folks at home may or may not know this, that the sales tax that you pay to the state does not stay totally with the state. It is given back to the cities, back to the municipalities, back to the counties in an proportionate basis.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the cities are getting all kinds of money. They're spending all kinds of money, but no, we have to cut police and fire if you take this away. So she vetoed that bill.
And with all the money, and this is one of the things that, and I have honestly not kept up on it, but that's one of the things with the first responders and all of that is their pensions. Their pensions are so good. There is so much money that goes into our cities, and nobody. I'm guessing it just goes to a lot of it goes to the pensions. I don't know, but that's one of the big, arguments that it's always been is they have such generous packages when they retire. I don't know.
Well, you don't want to talk about pensions to me.
Okay.
Because
We won't.
Almost all of the pension funds in the state of Arizona are underfunded. And if you recall earlier in this program, a few weeks ago, we talked about a bill which came up in which they were proposing, and I can't remember now, but it was something like $350 million that they were going to prepay the state's portion of the state employees pension fund, and the state employees pension fund, even after that, is still unfunded. It's underfunded. None of the pension funds are properly funded.
Well, and I understand that. And isn't that because they're so generous in their, you work for the city, you have it made. And that's part of the problem. They have all these promises for the pensions and they can't pay for it, which then comes back to us.
And speaking of coming back to us, the next bill that she vetoed was SB 1250, which had to do with a prohibition on the use of vaccines as a condition of employment. And in her veto letter, she says that, we don't need this because there's already a federal law that prohibits discrimination. Folks, that was not what this addressed at all.
No, that isn't.
No. What it is that some entities would require a vaccination, and when somebody decided that they wanted to exercise their right not to be vaccinated for whatever reason, it seems like in this case it was religious reasons, but it doesn't matter what the reason is, that they were not adhering to that. And so this bill would have addressed that, but she said, no, we're not going to do that.
And you know how you don't like the underfunding of the pensions? That's mine, the discrimination. We already have those laws.
You've seen the article that's come out about Governor Hobbs, right? They said that they didn't believe that it was possible for somebody to be a worse governor than Napolitano when we got Hobbs.
Oh, I said that myself a long time ago. It makes Napolitano look real good. And we're not even going to be talking about the resignations under fire.
Oh, yes.
For statements that are okay.
So don't even talk about discrimination.
No, we won't talk about that. We won't talk about the nominees that she has had to pull because of revelations about their shenanigans. This thing is We got better things to talk about. As a matter of fact, we'll be talking about some of these bills in just a minute. House Bill HB 2427. Short title: Domestic Violence Pregnant Victim Sentencing. This bill has cleared both chambers, and it's sitting on the governor's desk for her signature. And basically, and it was introduced by Representative Gress of District 4. It imposes an additional criminal liability for aggravated assault, or indicating that it is aggravated assault, if the person commits the assault knowing that the woman was pregnant.
Yeah.
And the reasoning behind that is, I suppose, that it can cause damage to the unborn child as much as to the woman, and that's why the penalty should be greater. We hope that a governor who thinks of herself or calls himself
It's all
herself a
about the
feminist.
children.
What is it? Yeah, it's all about the children. She's a feminist, you know. We hope that she will sign that bill. I hope that they would sign that bill. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but we'll see if she signs or vetoes that. But those of you who are interested in contacting the governor should do that. Should do so. And all you have to do is go online and ask for Arizona governor. That's all you have to type in. You Google that, and the site would come up. You can email or you can call by the phone.
I guess I don't know, a little confused by this, because it just seemed to me that it should encompass everybody. But I guess now with this, is it going to be that now we're going to have to identify each person that an assault is considered an assault on somebody?
Well, no, I mean,
If that makes sense.
the distinction here is between whether or not it's just an assault or an aggravated assault, because the penalty for the two of them are different. This will now make it a felony as opposed to a misdemeanor.
Right.
You know, therein lies the difference, and yeah, I think it's probably a good bill. I don't know exactly how this would play into abortion, though. Would seem to me like that might be an aggravated assault.
Well, and is it an aggravated assault on one person or two people?
No, it would be one on one person only. Oh, you mean the abortion thing, or
No,
this one?
the assault.
Well, it doesn't matter. There's assault, and what this does is it makes it so that it's aggravated instead of simple assault.
And I understand that, but would aggravated assault be on two people or one person?
Well,
Because, and then it would be a double the fine would, or the double the felony, it's what I'm thinking. Do you see what I'm saying?
yeah, no, I understand that. What do you have to say about that, Archie?
I don't have anything to say about it.
Okay,
Hey, folks,
I'm curious.
if you're watching at home, those of you who are watching at home, make a note.
So I'm
Say
just
that.
going to say it's not a clear bill, but I'm for this.
Anyway, the consensus here, I think, is that at least two of us think that this is a good bill and should be passed, or should be signed into
Signed.
law. It has passed the legislature. We're waiting for the governor to sign it or veto it or whatever.
And Archie?
Yeah, I'm in favor
Okay.
of it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so 3-0. House Bill HB 2440. Short title: Electric Energy Power Companies Priorities. Again, this bill has cleared both chambers, and it is sitting on the governor waiting her signature or veto. It was introduced by Representative Griffin. She introduces a lot of bills dealing with rural issues.
Because she's from a rural county.
Exactly, exactly. That makes sense. So this has a little bit of the flavor of that. It has to do with requiring public service corporations to behave in a certain manner. It is pretty much what I would consider a housekeeping bill.
Yeah.
It doesn't do much beyond that, but still, we shouldn't have to have a bill like that for to make electric companies behave properly, but I guess we do. So we'll see what the governor does with that.
This is a dumb bill.
Okay, yeah.
I'll tell you
That
why.
was what I was thinking about.
I'll tell you why I think this is a dumb bill, because the power companies have nothing to do with zoning and building new buildings in unimproved land. That is done by the cities and the counties and the state.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is you need to make this applicable to the cities and the counties and the state, and not to the power companies. And you need the cities and the counties and the state to stop closing down the power plants. And you also
Yeah.
need them to start building impoundments for additional water. We're running out of water in this state. I mean, this is to place this burden on power companies is just absolutely silly. Yeah, I mean, it belongs on the cities and the county and the state, and it doesn't belong on the power companies.
But as I said initially, it really doesn't do much of anything because there's no penalties for non-compliance. It's just one of those, as I said, a feel-good.
It's a feel-good bill.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, what else is new about legislation? You know, I mean, they don't. None of. If you read the bills, there's nothing in any of the bills that are introduced that has any penalties against anyone if they don't enforce the
Right.
law. I mean, they just don't exist. You know?
The only way that I would modify that statement is to say that it's about 90 to 95%, not 100%. Occasionally, we do have
Yeah.
a bill that has a penalty attached to it.
Like the aggravated assault there's a penalty, there's something that you suffer.
Well, there's specific, because there's a specific, it's already a specific penalty for aggravated
Right.
assault. But this doesn't say anything about assault or
Yeah.
aggravation or
Right.
anything else. So
I was just referring to
so we're
penalties.
I am kind of neutral on that. What about you guys?
I'm not neutral at all. I just got through telling you it's a stupid bill.
Okay, so you vote that she should veto that bill and
I
say
think
that's
she should veto this bill. Absolutely,
Okay.
it
Oh,
does
okay.
absolutely nothing. Yeah.
And I'm in the middle, I guess.
Well, that's appropriate. That's where you are in the middle.
That's why she sits in the middle.
That's why I'm in the middle. Okay.
House Bill HB 2472, short title, Social Credit Use Prohibition.
Want to start it again? Let's do it one more time. Okay. Here we go. 4, 3, 2.
House Bill HB 2472, short title, Social Credit Use Prohibition. Again, this bill has been cleared by both chambers, and it is sitting at the governor's desk awaiting her signature, introduced by Representative Montenegro. And this bill, we discussed this bill at length when it was going through the legislature, and we pointed out one significant flaw in the bill that was not, as far as I can tell, it was not corrected during its voyage through the legislature. So the final product still has the same problem, and that is the way the bill reads is that the state may not require a bank or financial institution to use social credit. Okay, listen to that carefully. The state may not require.
Mm-hmm.
It does not say that the institution may not use social credit. It says that the state cannot
Right.
require it, which of course is a step in the right direction, but it is not much of a step at
Right.
this point. Apparently what's been happening is that some states have been introducing legislature or having executive orders stating that the bank must use this social credit score when determining how they should behave in terms of affording or providing loans and so on. So to the extent that it is a step in the right direction, I'm in favor of it. But I agree with what we said before. It does not go anywhere near far enough.
Right.
Is that still the consensus here?
Yeah.
I suspect so, yeah.
Yep.
The problems that it had before have been corrected, and so, I mean, it's still kind of a useless bill, so.
Well, no, it's not useless in my opinion. It's just that it doesn't go far enough. It should have said that the banking institution cannot use that. But so I'm still in favor of the bill itself because it is a step in the right direction. What about you guys? Okay.
I guess I'm in favor
I
of it.
get- I know,
I don't think the state should be mandating what the lender's gonna be able to do anyway.
Oh, they do that all the time. There's all kinds of
Yeah.
rules and regulations
I know,
about.
I know. I understand that. Yeah. But let me tell you, if I'm loaning you money, I'm certainly going to be interested in whether or not you can repay it. You know?
Well, yeah.
That's in fact my comments last time we talked about this. It's here. The only two considerations for qualifying should be the ability to pay and past record, not once whatever else.
Right.
So, anyway,
I'm gonna say, I guess, sign it. I don't,
yeah, me too. Archie?
Nope.
No.
okay.
2-1.
It's like you said, a nothing bill.
Well, folks, as you well know, the First Amendment guarantees freedom of speech. But they forgot something. They did not guarantee free speech.
That's right.
What we do here costs money. All right? So we have to have commercials. So stay tuned during the commercial because we have a lot more material to cover when you get back.
Impact.
Senate Bill SB 1172. Short title, Fire District Bonding Limitation. It was passed by both chambers, and it's now waiting for the governor's signature. This bill, it was introduced by Senator Mesnard, and what it attempts to do is to put a little bit of responsibility, or make them responsible to these taxing districts, specifically fire districts. They seem to have, if you look at your county bill, your property tax bill, you will see that a lot of the tax that you see in your bill was put in there by a taxing district. And there's many different taxing districts. But fire is one of the major ones, fire taxing district. So what they do is they issue bonds, and you have a bond election, and they say, okay, we need the new fire engine. Without this, your house is going to burn down, and we won't be able to put out the fire. So they convince people to vote for the bond without paying much attention to their ability to pay or to maintain that bond. So then they go to the county, and then you and I, the taxpayers, have to pay for those bonds. So what this bill does is, number one, it makes it so that they have to have transparency. You have to inform the people as to what happens when you vote yes to issue a bond for whatever reason. And number two, it requires that they stay within what they call the statutory debt limitation when they do these bonds. To me, it makes sense.
Don't they already, though, tell you what the bond is for when you're voting on it?
They do in the fine print. When they talk to it, when they're trying to convince you to vote for it, all they do is they paint a picture. That is not always accurate. And I'm not saying that all bonds are this way. The ones that are not need not bother with this because they're already doing the right thing. It's just that some of them are not doing the right thing, and those are the ones that have to be brought under this bill.
Well, they also always say it never affects your taxes. But anyway, I'm just saying.
Yeah, this is not a new tax. This is just a bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to me, the difference in what they've done here is, first of all, if you look at the bill, it says that they can order that an election be held. That hasn't changed. They can order it. But in the original wording, it was the chairman of the board and the secretary-treasurer could order it. Now, they've changed that wording so that it now must come from the board of directors as a whole, rather than just the chairman of the board and the secretary-treasurer of the board. So they put a certain limitation on it, and I think that's probably a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, but it also restricts the amount that can be issued so that it does not exceed the district's statutory debt limit.
120%, right?
Yeah.
I think that's probably a good idea, too.
Yeah. So I'm in favor of this,
So am I.
for her to sign.
Reluctantly, I am, too.
3-0 in favor. Senate Bill SB 1001. Short title, Pronouns, Biological Sex, School Policies. This bill, unlike the others that we have been discussing today, this bill has not cleared both chambers yet. It is a Senate bill. It's still in the House, and it is going to be heard in the House Appropriations Committee on the 3rd of April. Introduced by Senator Kavanaugh, and it prohibits the use of pronouns that differ from the student's biological sex without the consent. This is the okay. Without the consent of the parent. Okay. The whole idea behind this is that if Johnny wants to be a she, or he is convinced by some teachers that he should consider himself a she, or vice versa, that this bill would prohibit the use of that pronoun because it does not match the biological sex. The only catch here is that if the parent says it's okay, I guess you can do it.
Yeah.
And maybe some of these parents need to help themselves. But anyway, it is a step in the right direction, and so I am in favor of that. It is kind of sad when adults convince a child that they're not what they are,
Right.
because there's no way that a kid can get that idea unless it's put there by an adult.
By somebody, right.
Okay, so it borders on the criminal to do that.
Unfortunately, it goes on both sides. The teachers, which is what,
Yeah,
and the parents do this also. If they have a boy and they actually wanted a girl, it just, this whole thing is sad. But with that being said, I'm in agreement with this. I mean, for what it is.
Well, I have a question for both of you,
What is that?
and all of you out there, too. Why is this limited to just the schools? This bill limits this prohibition just to schools. Now, what about other governmental agencies? Shouldn't they be prohibited?
Of course.
Well, yeah,
Well,
but-
but it doesn't apply to them. Just think about it. Hobbs is secretary, press secretary.
Right.
All right. She would have violated this section, this bill, if it would made applicable to the governor's office also.
Okay.
But it's not. It's only
But-
limited to schools.
But I think the the reason is the children are the ones being affected by this. It's not, when you're old enough and can make this determination, regardless of what that age is, I think it should be over 18 or whatever.
I don't care how many times Hobbs tells me that I'm a girl. She's not going to convince me.
Right.
However, a 12-year-old child
Yeah.
may not be in the same situation.
Right, and I think this is about the children.
Right. And that's why the emphasis in the school. I agree with you that should not happen anywhere.
Right.
But it is in the school where you have impressionable kids that this is really applicable or really needed. And to that extent,
Which
I am
is
in
a
favor of
shame,
it.
but yes, I'm in favor of it too.
Well, I'm in favor of it, but I mean, I just think it's too narrowly drafted. I mean, I
Right.
think it needs to apply to
And-
all governmental
Well, and I
agencies.
agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. But again, we discuss this every time. We cannot. This is a bill that has gone through the process or is going through the process. We can bitch and moan and complain about it's not a full bill. It's not, doesn't do everything. But we have to look at what we have. Either we think that it should advance. It's only two options here. Either the bill advances by clearing the House Appropriations Committee, or it dies because we voted no. So that's what we have to say. Is it better to be yes or is it better to be no? Not what other alternatives we have. And so that's why I'm yes on this, even though it doesn't go far enough.
Okay,
So we're all in agreement that
Yes.
yes is the answer.
yes.
Okay, 3-0. Senate Bill SB 1170. This is a bill that was the subject of a strike everything amendment. So the new short title is Ballot Drop Boxes Requirements Appropriation. And it is going to be in the House Appropriations Committee on Monday, I think it is. It's the third Monday or Tuesday?
What's that?
The third is Monday.
Monday, okay. Every bill that we discuss today is going to be in the House the House or Senate Appropriations Committee, because those are the only committees that are going to be holding hearings next week. And by the way, that will be the last week in which any committee hearings are held. Okay. This bill started out as a different bill, but apparently it had some problems or whatever. So the text of that bill was incorporated into another bill and replaced all the language in the new bill. And that is what we call a strike everything amendment. So this bill, 1170, is a brand new bill because it has brand new language. And the language is, as we said, drop boxes, requirements, appropriation. Basically, and again, that's one of these bills that doesn't go far enough. It prohibits the use of drop boxes unless they are monitored, unless they're in a certain situation where they can be watched or whatever. My position on that is that we shouldn't have drop boxes in the first place. If we want to have an early ballot, mail-in early ballot, drop it in the mailbox. If you're gonna come in to vote in person, why have a mail-in early ballot? So, drop boxes have absolutely no use except for political reasons. But again, it's not what I think; it's what's there, and based on what is there in the bill, I am in favor of it.
Well, it says here, other officer in charge of elections may use an unmonitored drop box for receipt of voter ballots if the ballot drop box is located either, and it gives the list of the places. But then it says, is present and monitoring the ballot drop box to ensure compliance with applicable laws. Unless I'm misreading, that doesn't make sense to me.
No, it don't make sense.
Okay. I mean, this isn't, it contradicts itself.
No, no to you, yes to you. It is a poorly written bill
But he agreed with me.
for a different reason.
Oh, okay.
It is a poorly written bill. It is confusing, but what's new?
Well-
That happens often. So
Yes.
you have to look at what you have, and again, ask the question: are we better off with this bill advancing, or are we better off with this bill not advancing? And it's on that I base my yes vote on this. My opinion is that we should do away with the ballot boxes totally.
Well, we all agree on that.
Okay, here it says that, okay, you have to have it monitored unless it is within a certain buildings, like a courthouse or whatever, and which is not make any sense.
The reason why the reason why I question this is because I know that when you are in a room full of people and you have an unmonitored box and you have everybody doing things and nobody's monitoring this box, anything can happen.
Yeah.
So that's my point with this.
Exactly.
And so this contradicts itself in my.
Well, no, it's not a contradiction. It's just it doesn't go far enough.
Okay, go ahead, Archie.
Here's where I have my problem.
Another problem?
If you look at 16546B, the way it's written, in B, it says the county recorder or other officer in charge of elections may use an outdoor ballot drop box for receipt of voted ballots if all of the following apply. And look at one: 2 or more election workers with equal representation of the largest political parties, monitoring the outdoor ballot box from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now, what's going to happen to the drop box after 5 o'clock?
After 5.
Are they going to pick it up and they're going to haul it someplace?
Or before 8, because polls generally open at 7.
Well, yeah, so it's unmonitored from 5:01 to 7:59,
Right.
and you can drop anything in it you want.
Right.
But
Firecrackers, water bottles, whatever. Yeah.
That's the original statute.
But it's all in blue.
It's
so
all
this
in.
is new.
It's all in here.
Oh.
It's all it's all in blue. So I mean, this is a new amendment. So I mean, just wait, guys, until 5:01, and then go drop as many ballots in it as you want.
As you
Nobody
want.
cares.
And so for that reason, I am not for this because it doesn't address the problems.
This needs to go back to Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
No time to go back. This is it.
Still needs to go back anyway.
Okay, so I am a yes, and the other two are no.
No's.
Absolutely no. I mean, this is a silly bill.
Well, folks, it's time to pay bills again, so we have to show you a little short commercial. Make sure you stay tuned and come back because we still have a lot of discussions to do regarding these bills.
Lively discussions.
Lively discussions.
Impact.
House Bill HB 2196. Short title, Appropriation, Department of Public Safety. This bill will be heard in the Senate Appropriations Committee on Tuesday the 4th. It was introduced by Representative, and I can never pronounce his
Nguyen.
name properly.
UN?
I think the way he pronounces Juan. Juan?
Oh.
Juan?
I don't know how he pronounces it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I know how I pronounce it.
it's spelled
Me too.
it's spelled Nguyen. It's a
They pronounce-
Vietnam,
I think it's
Vietnamese,
Nguyen.
it's a Vietnamese name. Anyway, This is one of those appropriation bills that Archie just loves because, well, he loves them. It appropriates $50,500,000 from the state general fund to the Department of Public Safety to build or repair infrastructure in Arizona. I'm assuming that this infrastructure has to do with either police stations or something for the Department of Public Safety. So it is an appropriations bill. It should be part of the overall budget. I don't know why they have these separate appropriation bills, but they do, to the extent that they do, and I think that the Department of Public Safety should be funded if they need the funding. I don't know. I guess it's okay. I'm kind of neutral on this. I don't know if we really need the separate appropriations bill. Do we?
I don't think we need this one at all. No, I just, I got two problems with it. One, they don't tell us what they mean by infrastructure. It could be at streets and roads. It could be water lines. It could be telephone poles. I mean, it could be almost anything. And they don't tell us what it's going to be used for. And for that reason, I'm not in favor of it. Plus the fact that it makes it free from the lapse statute. I don't think it should be free from the lapse statute. If they don't use the $50 million, then give it back to the taxpayers. But then we got another problem, and that is 2543 appropriates $343 million for infrastructure on repairing and building roads. I mean, is this an additional $50 million for building roads, or is it something else? It's just unclear, and if it's unclear and it violates the lapse statute, I'm against it.
What is the lapse statute?
I was going to mention that. Because I don't think most people at home know what that lapse statute is. And I forget the actual number. Archie, you probably remember
35190.
35190.
I knew he would know.
Revised statutes 35190. This statute says very simply that when you appropriate monies, if that money is not used during the period, that it goes back to the coffers of the state. Many bills, many appropriation bills, have a clause in there that says that 35190 does not apply. In other words, they can keep the money and use it for whatever they want to use it, regardless of whether they used it for the original project or not.
Take everybody to Hawaii. Yep.
Right.
Whatever. There's no restrictions on it. So anytime we see one of those statements in a bill, we bristle, okay? And Archie and I do. And I think now that you know what it is, you probably bristle too when you see that.
Yeah.
It's a red flag, if anything. But again, it's what it is. So.
And I'm a no on this.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I may go no on this as well. I don't like it.
I'm really sure. It's a definite no. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would say no. So we have agreement. All three of us don't like this bill.
Yep.
House Bill HB 2704. Appropriations, border, law enforcement, prosecution. This bill will be in the Senate Appropriations Committee on Tuesday, the 4th of April, introduced by Representative Biasuki, and it establishes the Exploitation at the Border Fund and requires the Department of Public Safety, right? The Public Safety to distribute monies in the fund to sheriffs and local law enforcement agencies in border counties to pay for the cost associated with border-related crimes, etc., etc. They need help. The federal government is not doing its job. As a matter of fact, the federal government doesn't want to do. They don't want enforcement of the border. They profit by having this type of situation. So it's up to the individual counties and municipalities to kind of keep these bad guys out, and that costs money. So we have to spend the money. I wish we didn't have to, but we do. So this is a case in which I would be in favor of this appropriation.
I see Archie has notes, so I'm real curious as to what you have to say.
Well, if you really want to know, I'll tell you. This is a bill that's long, long overdue in the state of Arizona. I mean, it just really has. If you look at the U.S. Constitution makes a provision that the federal government will protect the states. And in this instance, they're just simply not doing that. Our borders are just totally wide open. They're bringing in drugs. They're violating the slavery acts. And the federal government is just turning a totally blind eye to this. Now, the problem with it is that I don't think this bill is ever going to become law. Katie Hobbs will never, ever sign this bill.
Right.
But if for some reason or other it gets through both chambers of the House and Katie Hobbs should sign it, there's going to be any number of organizations out there that's going to jump all over this, and they're going to take it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And if they do that, there's only a 30% chance that this bill will ever survive. The federal government just does not want any competition at all.
Well, I don't know if you all know this also. I just happened to hear that now, under Mayorkas, they have an app that the illegals can go on this app, make an appointment to come to the border, and Arizona is one of the borders, and they make an appointment, they come to the border, and the border and the Border Patrol, whoever, lets them through the border.
Yeah.
It's an app.
Well, you have to have the app and you have to have an appointment.
You have the app, and they make an appointment, the illegal makes an appointment.
So if you don't have an appointment, what you do? You go back to the...
You go into those middle where they all cross the Rio Grande and wherever.
Oh, okay.
That's the way it is.
Banana Republic, folks.
That's a banana republic.
Banana Republic.
But they've just made it that much easier for the people.
Well, my take on this is, and I hear this quite often, they say, bills like this are a waste of time. Why do the legislators waste their time? Why do the legislators insist upon passing bills that they know are going to be vetoed? I like to ask the same question. Why is it that the government keeps on vetoing good bills?
Right.
Okay? So the whole idea is, sure, there is a very extremely high probability that she will veto this bill. Well, we want her to, if she's going to veto it, to wear that veto around her neck.
Right.
We want her to own that veto come next election time.
Right.
And maybe we can get rid of her and have a governor that would actually sign some of these good bills.
Right.
Well, this bill, if it's passed and she signs it into law, it has a chance of being upheld as a valid bill under the reservation of powers clause under the U.S. Constitution, because the states have reserved the rights and the powers. Anything that's not specifically granted to the federal government is reserved to the states.
Right.
If the federal government is not protecting the states reserve the power to protect themselves.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's
under
the
the reservation of powers,
Which is interesting, because a lot of people don't understand that. They think that, well, you know what, the federal government has the control, just move on.
Well, yeah, they have to read the 10th Amendment to the Constitution.
So I think we're all in favor of this, correct?
I am, yes.
Yeah, I am. All three.
Boy, we're
yeses.
doing pretty good today.
Yeah, for a bunch of girls. Don't make any fun of my hair. Governor
yeah, that's
said-
a little
Governor
flyaway,
said
isn't
you
it?
can't do that.
House Bill HB 2705, School Safety Training Pilot Program. This bill is going to be heard in the Senate Appropriations Committee on Tuesday, the 4th of April. Introduced by Representative Biasuki. It is a 4-year pilot program that orders the Department of Education to provide school personnel with training, special training in threat evaluation and firearms and a whole bunch of other things. I guess the idea is that you hear that old saying that when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, to provide a way for schools to head off a shooting, mostly, I guess, or any kind of other emergency ahead of the first responders coming to the rescue. I'm not sure, and we discussed this before while the bill was going through the system. Mm-hmm. We discussed this before, that we're not sure that this is such a good idea, especially if it seems like it's going to cost. The pilot program alone, and it's a 4-year pilot program, would be have an initial cost of $10 million, and it also has the one thing that we discussed earlier about the the lapse clause. It's exempt from the lapse clause, mm-hmm. meaning that if during that 4-year period they don't spend the whole $10 million, they get to use it any way, shape, or form that they want to use. They don't have to give it back. So because of that, it makes it, to me, questionable mm-hmm. at best. So I am not too hot on this. The
way I look at it, and I think this is what Archie said before, it's making the teachers and the staff the medical providers. Is that correct?
Well, not just the medical providers. I mean, now all of a sudden, and unless you've ever been on the business end of a gun, you don't know how you're going to operate. Mm-hmm. So as soon as somebody points a gun at you and they've got the trigger, the hammer pulled back, and all they've got to do is pull on the trigger, you're going to be awfully weak-kneed whenever that happens. And we're going to train the teachers to do this? No. I mean,
wait a second. You got to read the fine print here.
I did read the fine print, and it scared the hell out of me.
No, well, some of it does, but this is not a blanket thing for everyone, because not every teacher is going to want to be this.
Right.
First of all, and second, and probably more important, not everyone is going to qualify. They have to pass the psychological test. They have to be trained. They have to so. That part of it I'm not afraid of. What I'm afraid of is that we are getting into an area that perhaps we should not be getting into. Maybe it would be better to have more security. Maybe it would be better to have armed guards. I don't know, but it seems like we're going to have an awful lot of people trained in areas where they just don't belong there.
What I do not have a problem with on this bill is, and like we said, teachers can opt out of it. They don't have to. Not everybody has to do this. But it says, which I think is one of the big problems with the school shootings, is it says recognition of early warning signs of an imminent threat, and I think that that's something that so many people in the school system need to understand, that when they see threats and they understand what the threats are, that they need to be reporting them. And I do like the fact that it says firearm safety training, but it needs to be with a real gun. So if this is something that they're willing to take the teachers and that want to do it, I'm fine with that part of it, but some of the other stuff I'm not fine with. The medical training and all of that.
I'm just not in favor of it. I mean, you need to have people who choose to be out in front holding a gun.
But some people do want to.
Yeah, they're not going to.
They're not forcing anybody.
I didn't see anything in this bill that would force people to do anything.
It's not mandatory.
It's not mandatory.
Okay.
Not only that, you have to qualify for it.
Spend this $10 million trying to figure out a way of making the school grounds more secure and less being able to be penetrated.
And I agree with that.
And use this $10 million to put resource officers on the campus. I mean, this is, no. Now, let me tell you, until you've been on the business end of a gun, you don't have the faintest idea how you're going to react. And if you just think about what happened with this individual in Tennessee, they used an AR-15 and they blew out the glass to get into the school. Mm-hmm. There is no way that you're going to be able to prepare for that. And now all of a sudden you're going to have teachers running up and down the hallway with guns, waving them around, and they're going to be shooting everybody. No, that's not a good idea. Just not a good idea. I don't want my kids going to I don't want my grandkids or my great-grandkids going to a school like that. That's just pure idiocy. All you're doing is asking for the school teachers to start shooting students. No. Put somebody on that that's been properly trained.
You're totally wrong as to what this would do.
Yeah, well,
if you want to make the point that it would not be effective because they can get around that, that they can do things that is very hard to predict, et cetera, but and that I agree with, and that's why I'm hesitant about this bill. If you want to talk about that the $10 million could be used elsewhere better, I am ready to agree with that. But I am not going to agree with the picture you're presenting that there's going to be teachers
A free-for-all.
running around, waving their guns and that sort of. No, that's nonsense.
So, and for me, there's some things in this I like, some things I don't like, so I'm going to say no on this.
And I'm going to say, since I have to be contrarian, I'm going to have to say yes.
We know where Archie stands on this.
I've already stated where I stand.
I know.
This brings to an end this week's edition of Arizona Bill Watch. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, please make sure you tell your friends, relatives, and anyone else you know. And make sure you tune in next week for another fantastic edition of Arizona Bill Watch.
Arizona Bill Watch, the show where you get satisfaction if you're not getting it from your state legislators.